Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Raising Excellence, the most important 90 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever, however many minutes you've got to give to us today. Those are the most important. So, I'm Michael, the Opportunity Ambassador and MC for today's show. And today's show is entitled, Are We Living in Nero's Rome? That sounds pretty interesting, eh? With me today are some of my favorite people. My co-host, Agnieszka, our psychosomatic illuminator.
Nice to be here. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Dennis, the freedom facilitator.
Greetings and blessed love.
And Lee, our favorite wayfinder.
Always searching for
How we
truth
doing,
and
Lee?
the best path. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for being here. All right, are we living in Nero's Rome? There's a lot of similarities, certainly, to what's going on today and what seems to be in the history books in regard to Nero's Rome. But where do we want to take this right off the bat? I'll ask my co-host. Where do we want to start with?
Well, let's look into
I've got
history.
my
Just
ideas.
maybe we
Well, let's
can,
talk about the history.
yeah,
Let's
a little bit.
define Nero's Rome.
Yeah, what kind of guy was Nero? Was he like a nice guy, or what? What do the history books tell us about Nero? What does he stand for? He was kind of a tyrannical guy, supposedly, Hmm? and he
That's
didn't
true.
he didn't take a well. What happened to Rome itself? Have you guys researched it a little
Well,
bit?
I think there was a lot of kind of craziness going on, a lot of kind of immoral behavior, I guess, in a lot of cases. There certainly was a lot of fear and repercussions for people doing things that otherwise seemed would be relatively normal. But of course, if you said the wrong words, you might lose your head. That certainly seems to be the case these days. But I don't know. Does anybody want to throw in, add to what their perception of Nero's Rome was? Agnieszka, what was your perception of Nero's Rome from
I
your
remember learning about this in school, and Nero was painted as this totally crazy person who was like, you never know what you're going to get, if he's going to be the most kind and benevolent person, if he's going to just like pull the rug from under your feet and stab you in the heart. And so the theory is that that's why he was assassinated or taken out, because he was just, you know, I don't know the English, or I can't think of the English word right now, but yes,
I
he
remember
was
some.
coup
accountable.
d'état?
Yeah, I remember something about, like a general decadence, a general shift in society, like a supposedly a widening gap between the ruling class and their decadent behavior and, the commoners, so to say. And because I think Rome, compared to where Rome had come from, so there was like a kind of decay, I think, that was portrayed or that was perceived, at least that's what the history books that I was exposed to were kind of painting. And yeah, so there were, I guess today, if we use terms of today, there was a disappearing middle class, I guess if you could say so, and there was just a larger gap between, the very few that were in power and had control over the many, and that was not so much behind the curtains again, but it kind of came out in the light. And wasn't his sister also involved in his death? Was there something around that?
Possibly his mother, possibly with poisoned mushrooms. At 17, he ascended to the throne. I'm reading this from a post on medium.com, the Wellington Post. He says, here's everything you didn't know about Emperor Nero.
Well, are you going to go ahead, Lee? Are you going?
Sure. When he
Please.
is in his first 5 years as emperor, he gained a reputation for political generosity. He promoted power sharing within the Senate and ended closed-door political trials. though he generally pursued his own passions and left the ruling up to three key advisors: the Stoic philosopher Seneca, the perfect Burrus, and ultimately Agrippina, who I believe is his mother. Yes, Agrippina the Younger, who had married Claudius after arranging the death of her second husband. And she was the force that got him
She
adopted into the
seems
royal family. Yeah, go ahead.
that definitely sounds interesting, but I I was thinking that the word neurosis is kind of something that I suppose reflects with the name Nero,
Yeah.
and that
That's
that
interesting.
that is, I think the Greek word is neuron, which is distress or abnormal condition. But getting back to what you were saying, I think in that era there was a great deal of like emperors that got deposed by the Senate and by the political factions within the Roman government at that time. So I think there was a great deal of you know stress for everybody that was involved in regard to what was going on. And certainly I think Nero kind of is kind of the scapegoat or the fall guy for some of this, although I think there's obviously some odd things going on, and maybe that's part of the whole thing, is that a lot of the odd things that go on are kind of when you have a political structure that is carrot and stick. They've got the carrots out there, and certainly there's a lot of money flowing around, but there's also a lot of blackmail and black bags kind of things going on as well, where people are kind of doing bad things, and that is kind of part of the system. But I don't know. I didn't want to get too far off of Nero. Maybe you
So
can bring
Well,
us back,
so
Hope.
living in Nero's Rome would be living full of fear, right? Maybe even every level of citizen would have a certain level of fear and like clenching the stomach. You know what I mean? Like that whole situation. Probably high cortisol too. Although I'm sure there were pockets of people who just like had nothing to do with him and would just live normal lives and not worry about anything.
so that does kind of relate to today, right? It seems that the world we're living in, at least for it seems many, if not a lot of us, is kind of tainted by, you know, the the fear of a certain death or sickness and illness, and what has been going
Certain
on for the
death
last
comes to everyone.
yeah
Well, I
yeah.
think there's like a ridiculousness that becomes obvious, and because the whole system is really breaking down. Certainly, the monetary and financial system is like at its end. We know that the dollar is basically being debased at a like a unbelievable level. It's certainly similar in Roman times. They were basically cutting the edges of the quarters or the coins to take away the silver, and then there was like alloys introduced and stuff to kind of keep the coinage going because they didn't have the actual base metal that is the predominant one for like gold and silver. So similarly, we're in that kind of a circumstance, and to some degree it is always the financiers that are putting the politicians in front to kind of take the hit for what's actually going on, which a lot of cases is looting and pillaging behind the scenes.
So there's a loss of value, inner and outer values then, eh?
Yes.
Yeah, that relates to him also. In the final years of his rule, the empire was under great strain. Reconstruction costs in Rome itself, revolts in Britain and Judea, conflicts with Parthia, rebuilding expenses in the capital forced him to devalue the currency, lowering the silver content by 10%. There was high level conspiracies to assassinate him. His advisors were removed one by one. Right. He also did some rebuilding, and some. There's a theory that that burning was meant to remove property, so that he could do rebuilding, reconstruction. 100 acres in the center of the city. That's a large parcel.
Hmm.
The remaking. So it sounds like enforced change. A lot of changes were happening, not naturally, right? People wouldn't want their money to be devalued, which would cause its own level of instability.
Yeah,
Well,
just
that indicates like a lot of corruption too, because usually when there's a lot of corruption, it's a scarcity mentality, you know, like everybody's got to get paid, and unfortunately there's not enough money to go around, and so people start losing, control, and to a large degree, the people that are kind of on the outside edge of the corruption aren't getting paid enough, and that's usually what leads to unrest.
But it's funny because it seems like we have these two different groups of people. Some people are really afraid of the current situation, the invisible enemy, and all of that. And some people are afraid of the devaluing of the currency and the general shit show. And so that pretty much takes care of the whole population. But what if neither is as scary as we portray it to be, right? We've covered the invisible enemy in the latest episodes a few times, but the whole shit show aspect of it, I mean, I've lived through it in Poland where money devalued overnight, right? And yes, it was hard. Yes, there were tough times, but everything balanced back. Like it wasn't like shit show and it stayed shit show for like years, right? Maybe a year, right? But it slowly and gradually went back to normal. Like it's like there is a normal and people will maintain that normal no matter what, right? And so no matter what's going on and shifts and certain jobs will fall away and other jobs will have to be created and certain ways of being will go away and other ways of being will have to be embraced, afterwards everything will be okay. It'll still be okay, right? It's not like as a child I hardly noticed it. Like, yeah, okay, so we didn't have meat on the sandwiches, sometimes we just had cheese, you know. I couldn't buy new clothes that year, and so we just used the same clothes. But other than that, it wasn't like, and we weren't rich. My mom was a single mom, but it was pretty much like she maintained it pretty normal, you know. I
You're
did get
right.
pajamas for
That's a
Christmas.
good
That
point.
sucked.
There's parallels and patterns to this forced change and trends that we can see and repeated in history again and again. But that pattern also, the reaffirmation of stability, or the the shakedown and things start to settle again and rebuild and prosper. That's another common pattern in history also. Even in the history of United States, Virginia, their communist grain silo, right, their shared grain silo system that they had in the colony failed before they were willing to try property rights or reconnect with property rights and to build a better system that worked and was successful. So that's a good point.
yes,
And hang on, I have a challenge for you all, and then I'll shut up, I promise. But seriously, I have a challenge because all of you creators, all of you people who believe in the etheric force or in the mind over matter, in the mind creating your own reality, you cannot get sucked into either one of these holes. And it is not naive of me to say that. It's smart of me to say that. It's resilient of me to say that. Because as I believe in creating my own reality, in creating my own situation, as I believe that my emotions and my thoughts are reflected in my subsequent reality, I'm not going to allow some crappy situations to take my focus off of what's really important, which is the beauty, the love, the family, the collaboration, the cooperation, the working together, the loving each other, the creating a better world for everybody. And it doesn't matter what happens, it'll still be the priority forever. So don't get sucked into bullshit. Okay, rant over.
Yeah, like I think that is a strong call, and very much of the hour, and we can remind each other and our loved ones enough about that, because it's so easy with the uh, even modern media interfaces, internet and so on, that we have at our leisure, at least many of us today, to get sucked in, and for our senses, for our emotions to get hijacked by what's going on, not only in the immediate place of our dwelling, but like on the other side of the world, where years ago we couldn't even have dreamt about finding out and knowing what's going on there right now, and seeing pictures and seeing all kind of different perspectives and opinions. And it's wow, it's like it's overwhelming. And there's a um, how would I say, there is like a the overwhelm, the information overwhelm that we are under at this point of time, is also something that it might be just organically happening, but it might also be something that is constructed in order to do exactly that, in order to hijack our the self-control that we have, the control over our lives. And then because of fearing and fretting over what's going on 10,000 miles away, we forget to take care of, I don't know, the kitchen dishes, or our children, or, our neighbors. And we forget to learn, we got to, to be close to each other and to value that which is really essential in our life. So, yeah, I think that was a strong call, Agnieszka, and I think it's just, pertinent to really remember and to refocus again. Okay, I'm here, I'm alive. What is important for me right now? Okay, there's breath going through me. Okay, there's some good water, there's some good food. Okay, where's friends, family? And just connect with that. Take off your shoes, go outside. Whatever it is that helps you to reconnect with nature, and reconnect with the reality that we're in right now, is something that can help you to take your mind off, and regain, take your mind off the hustle and bustle of the world, and regain a sense of being rooted in who you are and in where you are right now.
Well, I think we ran to the conclusion before we got to the actual story. Um, and I think that's one of the things we probably need to do a better job of, is really
That
kind of
wasn't the
holding back on
conclusion.
our
That
solution
was the
before we like
story.
actually define the problem.
We can restate this in the future, but that is the story. That's the essence of this story. The whole Nero thing is just an example to illustrate what is actually going on. And is it going on outside, out there, or is it going on inside?
Well, and I think one of the things though you got is you know there's a setup that is kind of what the social engineers do to kind of situate the circumstances in a way that they can manipulate it so that they remain in control, and everybody else kind of loses control. And it's like the idea of like when you buy and sell things, you buy things when everybody else is selling when you're successful. But if you create the circumstance that everybody wants to sell, and you buy, and then when everybody wants to buy you sell, you're always going to be successful. And that's kind of the way they set things up. But certainly in this circumstance, it's a larger scale. And that's, I think, one of the things that in regard to understanding human nature, that most people are unaware of, is that we are time binders. That like what we do today affects the future, and what we understand from the past is what we do, is how we understand what we're doing today. But if we don't understand those two things, we end up falling for the same things from the people that do understand that stuff. And so, in a large part, I think what people are experiencing and what this kind of mass neurosis is really about is, teaching us a lesson about our own nature. And if we don't understand that, then we just continually fall into the same traps over and over again. And this is a trap that's obviously been sprung on people for at least 2,000 years, possibly more, or at least what we see as recorded history of 2,000 years. I'm not exactly sure that's the case. I think a lot of the stuff that we're seeing, even history from a few hundred years ago, and even the stuff that like some of us have experienced, like in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that. Now they're telling us what we experienced in the 70s and 80s, and the people that weren't born in the 70s and 80s are like assuming that that's what happened, and so now we all kind of fall victim to the stories that they're telling us about what actually happened. And the reality is that we know what actually happened, and because we're not relating to the people that had those experiences back then, we kind of lose it for the stuff that they're telling us in the movies and the television shows and so forth, that kind of rewrite in our own brain what actually happened. And I think this is kind of one of the things that I really am worried about, in regard to, like, the violence factor. I think what we're seeing in the United States now is this kind of divide and conquer strategy, where people are being divided into two camps, and they're being pitted against each other, and they're basically, one side is saying, I'm fighting for freedom, and the other side is saying, I'm fighting for humanity. And now they're going to go to war with each other. But the reality is you don't have to go to that level of desperation. You don't have to fight anybody. You just need to understand what is valuable for each side, and start to like collaborate on, hey, we can actually have both of these things. We don't need to fight each other for these things. We can have both of these things. In fact, we can probably have a few other things too, if we collaborate. And this is the thing that I think people are being led away from, certainly through the media and everything else, is this like turn to violence and turn to uh, opposition from the other point of view, and start to understand that we've got a lot of choices, but we've got to give people choices to have choices. And so we've got to start like understanding what people actually, in listening to other people and hearing what their needs are, before we can actually give them valuable choices. But if we don't do all those things, then we're going to end up with big fights and big destruction. And unfortunately, that's every time this kind of thing comes up, every time we have a reset, which is usually about every 40 years, there's some kind of big battle, big war, big something or other that a lot of people get hurt in. And we don't necessarily have to go down that path. And certainly, as a community of people like the group we've got in autonomy, we can help each other to move through this circumstance, even if the rest of the world goes crazy and falls for another trap one more time. Um, we don't necessarily have to do that.
I mean, the a tyrant or an impending tyrant, going back to Nero again, certainly also um, triggers people to awaken and to look at it. Because if it's just, you can't really make it out, is he good, is he bad, what's his plan, and so then it's like, okay, whatever, then maybe your mind makes up ways of thinking, okay, maybe he meant it that way, or maybe it's like this. But the clearer it becomes that somebody is really, gone nuts and imposing insanity on on humanity itself, or on large part of it at least, the every action has a reaction. So the reaction is going to be, in accordance to that really crass, behavior, let's say, of a tyrant. And we took Nero as an example there. So it is, it's always like it's a knife with two blades, basically. So you can only, you can make a move in one direction, and you can, let's say, from martial art background, you can attack, but you cannot attack without opening yourself as well. So there's always like I said, there's an action, there's a reaction to it, and I can see that that is happening as well. That much more people are becoming aware, or as I said, I think on Monday as well, are in a way forced to make a decision and to choose, where they stand and where they put their 2 feet. And if the gap is widening, sooner or later it's going to become impossible, or at least quite painful, if you have 1 foot on the left side and 1 foot on the right side, and it goes deeper and deeper. It's going to get painful at some point. So people are forced to make a decision, really, and to show where they stand, and to maybe also reevaluate the views that they have. And then I feel it's not so much necessarily giving people choices, but I feel more it's like to make them aware of the choices that are there and that they already had, but they were, the choices were always there. They could have made a choice, but they were not at a point, or they were not aware of the possibilities that are there. So I see my role, as a coach, and even as a father and as a husband and as a member of a community, as to be one who maybe can see possibilities that others cannot see, and also hoping that others do the same thing with me, to point out things where I can grow and point out views and angles that I have not been able to see myself, so that we can grow in awareness. And then certainly if you only perceive to be two choices, there to be two choices, then we can only take the left or the right. But then if all in a sudden, through some process or a friend's advice, we become aware, oh, there's actually much more, then life becomes so much more richer. And then we can be more confident also that we can take a step to the left, and then we can see and feel it out. And if that doesn't work out, okay, we can go back. So we have that freedom in life, to try out something. And just like little children, sometimes you tell them, don't touch this, it's really hot, and they will learn like that. And others, they have to physically put their hand there and feel what is hot. And that's also, that's up to everyone's choice again, to learn and to make the experience, to learn the way that they learn best.
Well, I would say there's a distinction, because there's a false choice, and then there's real choices, and
But
that's
hang on,
that's
because Lee wanted to say something too.
Did I? Go ahead. I'll hold on to it because it relates to Nero and the fear that a friend communicated to me. Go on, Mike. Thank you, Agnieszka.
well, yeah. In regard to a false choice and a real choice, the false choice, the Hegelian dialectic, the idea that you've got thesis, antithesis, synthesis. What they're really trying to do is get you to make a choice, a bad choice, between two bad options that lead into the same circumstance, the synthesis. And so like what most of the politicians and most of the people in charge of society are giving people are bad choices. And and when it comes to this idea of divide and conquer, the real understanding that we need to have is divided is conquered. Like every time that we're opposed to our neighbors, we need to know that that's not an opportunity for conflict. That's an opportunity for learning. Because if we're divided against our neighbor, we have missed an opportunity to understand like their needs, and they probably misunderstood our needs as well. And so this is an opportunity to learn. And that's really I think the big key is when you start to give people that need things choices about how to satisfy those needs that are real, then there's movement, then there's growth, then things start to happen. And that's kind of what I would suggest is what I would call healthy conflict and dispute resolution, is where we actually learn things about each other, and things progress, and both people get to win. And that's what we're missing when it comes to these political divides and all the things that they're perpetuating with the violence and everything else in the media, is they're giving you false choices. You think you're making a choice, but it's only leading to more turmoil. And there's a whole bunch of things down those lines. But go ahead, Lee. I don't want to stomp on you too much.
That's good. You reminded me of the Chinese proverb: whoever creates the rules of the argument will win the argument. So when you're presented, as you said, with false choices, and you believe that those are the limitations that you have, those are what limit your choices, then it becomes more easy to funnel or direct the flow of all that energy. Because as Agnieszka said, and also maybe Dennis also, is that that energy is always there, it's always around. And how you're going to make use of your energy and where you're going to direct your energy, your life energy. This came from an email I had from a friend, and then I replied, and then also in the email he said, "But if you have time to talk, I'd like to talk to you." And so he didn't want to just accept that 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 story. He wanted to talk about it, to go somewhere else with it, to get into a conversation. And we did, and we connected, and we had a conversation. And then I asked him about why he was feeling that way, and he said, "Well, I'm not operating out of a sense of fear. This is my analysis of where things are going and where things are headed." And what I heard from that was that he doesn't want to give into fear, but he sees it as a big problem that he can't turn around or affect. And then he talked about his own financial support and how he needs to find a way to support himself, that his partner has been supporting their life, and while he has dealt with a lot of different things, but he's looking for solutions. And so there's hope there. And so he's still seeking a way forward, a way that does not keep him in that dark gloom, or that feeling of hopelessness and helplessness, right? Which is inside of all of us. We all have this feeling that we recognize there are challenges, but I choose not to be helpless, and then I choose not to be hopeless. So I better keep looking for solutions.
Yeah, and the techniques that are really played upon us seem so much more subtle and effective on a whole different level than, back in Rome's times, where there was maybe, like whips and lashes given out, and it was a
Yeah,
very
or men
direct.
crying in the square,
Yeah.
hear ye, or whatever. This is the news.
Yeah. you know
Go on.
So today, like one of the things that I constantly recognize around me for quite a few years now is that what they call nudging, where they don't hit you with a stick if you don't obey the orders, but where they frame us and where they nudge us continuously through the different media outlets, through politically correct behavior. Oh, we're supposed to do this and you're not supposed to do that. And so they're setting an entire framework, and it's like all, soft and cushiony and, with nice, pretty colors. And so, but if you really like knock at the wall and so there's, it's because a concrete wall still, it's just painted with a pretty color. It's like, there's a little cushion, and they're closing in on people, and as pretty as it looks, but it's nudging you in that predetermined way or pathway, which is what you said, Mike, as well. There's A, B, there's your choice between Pepsi and Coke, and then they make you believe that that's freedom. And it's like, hold on, it's not. Or the left and the right, and the whatever political parties they put in front of us, or whatever flavor of the political system they make up for our specific geographic area that we live in. But they're really looking through, there's not many people who are actually managing to think outside of that framework and outside of the box that we are supposed to live and dwell in. And it's all cushiony, like we have TV and we have, I don't know, cell phones and food. And I think if you look on a global scale, the perceived standard
People
of
have
living has
never been
improved a lot.
happier.
Yeah, what did like a German politician say? It's the best Germany that we ever had, and so there's all those, there's those
Sorry.
phrases and slogans being thrown out, but it's not in front of you and right in your face. It's like a little nudge. Oh, like nudging you this way. Oh, go that way, and then
But
sometimes they pull,
hang
sometimes
on.
they push.
Let me take it to a whole other level though, because yes, that is true that the dichotomy is there, the right or left, whatever. But then there are always those people who defy reality. There are always those people who step above and have like those 7 mile shoes, and like everybody is doing this and they're just like jump over the hoops, whether it's like with customs people or with jobs or with getting a job or with getting paid or with creating businesses. There are always those people, right? So what's stopping us from being those people? Why can't we also go onto that next level, the alternative reality or whatever, and just hop over all those limitations, right? And the other thing I wanted to say, and it kind of ties into this whole thing and ties it all not in a nice little package, is that we're spiritual beings. We're not just physical. Like, I am more, in my belief system, I'm more than this physical body. I am also a spirit. And that spirit is, incorporeal, coming in, visiting and leaving, right? But I came here now. I didn't come here during times of peace. I didn't come here to live in a castle. I didn't come here. I came here to watch this revolution, this this changeover, this turnover. I came here to observe these planetary changes and how they affect humanity. I've chosen this time. It was my choice. I came here because I wanted to come here. Right now, in this body, at this level of consciousness, with these priorities. And if I am the person who is on the streets pushing and pulling, whatever, that's what they've chosen to do. They've come here to do the fighting, to experience that essence of fighting, right? And they can step away from it, but they would have to want to. They would have to go, oh, that's no longer what I want to experience. Now I want to experience this, right? But as long as they're in the fight, they're choosing the fight, right?
Well, if you don't, that's a level of awareness and consciousness, though. And if they've been programmed to do that, if they've been,
But on a
if they've
spiritual
been put in a
level,
closet.
right, but on a spiritual level, they cannot be programmed. So any programming that they accept is part of their experience.
So a way of stepping out of that programming and yeah, basically of recentering yourself. A simple question to ask um, is is whatever you're looking at right now, is that limiting myself or is that setting myself free? So if whether it's the nudging or whether it's the whip across your back, is that something that limits, my humanity, my physical capacity, to do something or to be all I can be, or is that something that's really setting me free and that's connecting me to the infinite and that's making me aware of the infinite being, the infinite possibilities, and that freedom which I am also. And then again, then it's true, like, do we allow for that and do we let ourselves, be lulled in like a little baby and, with a nudging and with the rose walls, or can we see through it and do we make a choice for freedom and for experiencing all that we can experience in this life?
Well, if we are each resources that ultimately have, like, every human is a unlimited resource, and if we're not seeing that as such, then we really haven't learned, right? And I think it's like we have this choice where we can either, like, create the Garden of Eden, or we can have like a desolate desert. And it's like we're either playing a part in turning this place into a desert, or we're turning it into the ultimate garden. And, like, which way do we want to go? And, like, if we're just saying, well, everybody else is going for the desert, let's just go for the desert.
Desert
That's
is
just
beautiful. The desert is beautiful. There are, sparkling ice
how
on
about
in the
Antarctica?
morning.
Is the desert in Antarctica beautiful?
I wonder if you
People
can
have
find a
been
better
there.
word for resource, because a resource is really something that associate,
Yeah,
that's a resource, something to be used in order to fuel or to do something. But I feel we are more than just
potential.
resources.
We each have the potential to, like, infinite potential. And if we're not recognizing that in each other,
Then we become a
we're
resource
really,
for somebody
I
else.
can
yeah,
connect to what you said because I, for over a year, went through all the processes that I was asked to do to gain a resident status in this country, and I ultimately failed. And I contacted every level of government that I was asked to contact, and then I went beyond that and addressed letters to the individuals responsible at the heads of all those organizations, including the president of the country, and all of them refused to assist me. Then I got involved with a situation where someone was hassling an old shopkeeper, and the police showed up And then I told them that I called them because this man wouldn't move and they didn't want to do anything. Then they left. And then I moved that man non-violently, although I did hold on to his jacket. He didn't want to be moved down the stairs, so he moved on his own when I showed him that I was going to help him move without hurting him or harming him. And then he called the police. The police returned and they asked me what's going on. I said I had to move him. You were here. You didn't want to help with that situation, so I had to help my friend myself. He's an old man. He doesn't want to deal with that. But I didn't throw him down the stairs. I didn't punch him in the face. I just asked him to move. He refused. I moved him. Now his jacket got ripped, but he moved. And then the police wanted to look into my situation. And so they asked for my papers and my documents and my phone number, all this kind of things. I said, come with me. I'll take you to my apartment. I'll give you all these documents. I'll show you. And I'll show you as well. I've had emails from your president of your country. And I showed them all this stuff. Then they got on the phone and they were talking to somebody for like 20 minutes. And the person on the other phone is answering them questions, giving them directives. And then they turned the phone off and addressed me again. And they said, well, we could legally take you away because you have overstayed your visa, but we don't have an answer for who's going to take care of your 2 children. So we're going to go now. And then they just left. And so where did that leave me? That leave me with, oh no, I can't do anything. Or I did everything. Now I'm free. And so I went to do other things. And then I kept looking and I had contact with people and then I saved money to make a deposit on a teaching space, which I still haven't started teaching at, but I showed that on my podcast where it was the location on the street. I shouldn't be able to do that without a card approval to tie into the tax system and all that stuff. But I did it anyway. And the people that were the landlord and her facilitator and a translator was there, all of them Taiwanese, who told me about this and were detailing everything in Chinese in the contract, said, you must agree to follow the law. I said, of course I will agree to follow the law. I have a very good relationship with the police. They know exactly who I am and where I am. And then after that, immediately after that, they said, oh, by the way, you cannot market yourself or your class as a bushiban because the license are very strict. And people who are competing with the market with you are going to try to focus attention on the authorities if you do that because they know that that's a way. So, and they said, so make sure that you just say you're a tutor. And so they helped me. They wanted to advise me on how to circumvent the rules that they just asked me to follow. And that's the reality. And they understand the reality of their country and the reality of what government is and does.
So
Just like if you move away from the capital, people won't wear a helmet when they're driving their motorcycle on the street. But when they're around the police or they get pulled over, then they'll put their helmet on. But they don't, you know what I mean? And
so you were able to basically look deeper and see and perceive at a level that you were not able to see before, and that's because you asked and because you took action. So it's through action, that we also enter new realms and are able to discover and unveil things that have been, covered and have been hidden from us. And I think that's that is a strategy, just to take action and to make movements. If you move, then something must happen. And if it's something that brings you further and that helps you on your way, that's good. So continue moving in that direction. If not, then you redirect and you move somewhere else. But
I was limited in the past so many times about having the right papers and the right qualifications.
It's a mind thing, yeah.
Over 20 years without those papers and those qualifications, just by going and doing and teaching. And the people wanted me to learn those skills. The Taiwanese people taught me the skills that I have. And I earned through all that suffering and all those failures. Not really failures, right? Because I survived and I continued to learn on how to operate in this country, even with the language skills, right? I'm not fluent in Chinese, but I can understand a lot of what's going on and ask questions.
Isn't that a great example? Like for like mind, like how our mind is or limiting us or is freeing us as well. So it can work both ways. It's like how we use it, how we make use of it, and how we take charge of it as well, right? And I think we should, because we have been given a mind, so why not use it? And like if you paint the worst case and, oh, this can't work, and without the law, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that, and the police gonna come, I'm not, you're gonna stay in your little room and not do anything in life. And if you're on the other side, make moves, and you're able to perceive, or maybe there's a chance, and then, oh, you make moves, and then you're opening your mind and you find out, oh wow, maybe that was the biggest blessing in the first place, because you're going to connect to people who also are not into papers and into the official story, and that's actually more people, and they're even more, you can attract them even more than others, because they can see that you in the same situation. They will appreciate you even more for that. So sometimes the blessing comes disguised as a huge challenge, or as like a perceived impossibility in the first place.
My friend who was there in support of me, he was saying the Taiwanese are like this and they're like that and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And we actually signed everything, and then they photocopied my passport without flipping through all the pages. And I said, "Do you want to?" And I showed them, like, I have no police record in this country. I've been here for 2 decades, and the police have no record. I have never broken a law. I've paid taxes. I have an ID number. All these things, but they didn't ask for the things that I didn't have. They just went ahead and went forward. And then we left and we started to go home. And then they called me, "Hey, you didn't give us the deposit." I said, "I'll be right there. I'll come right back." And my friend said, I can't believe that. Also, in Taiwan, usually you show them money and they snatch it out of your hands and then they sign all the papers and stuff. And so his expectations were also not clear. I was just willing to be open to what would happen and see what would happen. And on the way there, I I honored the local shrine and that kind of thing. And I said, "I don't have anything to offer you now, but I will come back. I will leave something. Here, take this cigarette." I left something. Then later on, I left the banana or something there. But just like that. And the name of that shrine, that guy has my name, like the wind, something to do with wind. My Chinese name is Liu Fong, and his name has also that same character, wind or fong, something in there as well. So I took that as another sign, a positive sign, and it worked out.
All ways of how to deal with a system that is in place, and that's you know that we have to deal with as well. But it's really stepping out of the box and knowing that there's something beyond that. I think that is what gives hope. Connecting with people that can go beyond the Nero state and Nero system, and that can see that there's something beyond it. That is really exciting. And I feel that is a role also that we are playing, is raising excellence, to show that there are ways around, and wherever you are on your journey, that it's not that little box alone that we are confined to, but we can open up and stick our head out and see what's there.
As a matter of fact, I got a little bit of a story myself. I was just, you know, I don't get on Facebook a lot these days because there's a lot of conflict going on. But I had posted a actual Bible verse out of Matthew 13, which is one of those verses where it says, there's going to be people that do see what's going on, and there's going to be a lot of people that don't see what's going on, and no matter what, even if you show it to them, they don't see it, or you tell them and they don't hear it, and they don't understand. And my one of my cousins said, "I don't understand you. You rail on the government and then you throw the Bible in our face. And I was like, well, my feeling is that I'm going to try and connect with you in whatever way that I can to get a point across, and I will rest easier because I feel like at least I tried, because I feel like, people are not getting the message, and I'm trying to like convey it in a lot of different ways. But then I thought, and one of the explanations I had was, like, we're not getting out of this world alive. All of us are going to have to, are going to find our end here ultimately. But the thing is I want to make it better. I want to make it better for those that are after me. I want to try and make it a little better. And, and I would hate to feel like I had contributed to making it worse. And I do feel like a lot of my life I have contributed to making it worse for people. And so I'm really trying hard to make it better for people, you know. And to me, that's the difference. I'm not afraid to die. I'm not afraid of the day that my death, that day that I do die. Not afraid of that. And I know that everybody is going to have to face that day someday. And if a million people are killed because of some baloney thing that the government does, or maybe it's 10 million people, or maybe it's 100 million people, we're all going to die. But I don't want it to be worse for people. I want it to be better. And
Michael,
if
does that
people can
connect to
learn
your
something.
purpose, the purpose for yourself, for your life, what you wish to build or do now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I do. I really want to affect the people's lives of the people that I touch, certainly. And I think that's really kind of the key, is like, if I am in conflict with people around me, then I need to learn more, because I either haven't been able to communicate, or I haven't been able to understand what's going on, to better their life in a better way. Because I do feel like it is really about the people that are around you, and the people that the circle of friends, the circle of influence of the people that you have. Are you influencing their lives in a positive way? And that's certainly the ones that I'm most concerned about. Despite the fact that I've got family all over the planet at this point, and that used to be kind of the center of a lot of people's lives, say just 100 years ago. Their family was the key. Their cousins and their uncles and their aunts and all that kind of stuff were the people that they were concerned about. Now we live in a world where it's not necessarily the blood relatives that are the people that are the most concerning. It's the people that we share, ideology with.
Ideas.
What came to my mind is this. How Rastafarians they would say Rome, but a more common word is also Babylon. So to call the system or the shitsmo, to call it Babylon. Everything that is bad, is called perceived as Babylon. And there's this is it a saying? Is it a phrase of living in the world, living in Rome, living in Babylon, but not being of the world, or of Rome, or of Babylon. So it is to acknowledge and to see, yeah, we are part of all of this. All of this craziness, all of this madness that's going on right here and right now. To a more or lesser degree in our lives, depending on where we are, I guess.
I
But
called it a shit show.
you call it a
Shit
shit
show is a
show.
good word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we are in this already, in this show, then can we be in this show? Can we live in this world yet not be of it? And there's a huge difference in that. To acknowledge, okay, I'm here. This is what's happening. Next door. This is what's happening. In the country and in the place. But is that me? Am I the true I that I am? The true self that I am? Is that part of it? Am I really part of that? Or to what degree am I of this world? Because you can be amidst, the worst of the worst, and among destruction, and like I said, really in a really bad situation. But is there a possibility of you not being that, and of you maintaining who you truly are, and maintaining that connection and that sanity, and coping with the madness and the insanity around you, and yet maintaining the source and maintaining the light that you truly are? And I feel that's really at the essence of it. Like we started out looking back at Nero, at Rome, at the history. We looked at what's going on right now, and now looking forward at how can we cope with what is happening right now, in order to create a different tomorrow, one where we can, even if we cannot change the world in a way that everybody will perceive it as like a different place by tomorrow, but can we change ourselves in a way that we can accept, okay, we live in this right now, but yet we are not of it. We are of something else, something that is to come, maybe to you and me and to many more. And if not, still, we can hold that for ourselves, and we can live in balance and in harmony, at least, within ourselves, and hopefully with a few more that we might find.
Well said. All right. Does anybody have anything else to add to this? Because I could go on for days on this subject. I think there's a there's well
But
maybe I'll
leave
throw something.
something, leave something for next week, though. Come on.
Well, I would say that I think one of the things I've heard that I really try and embody is calm is power. And in a lot of ways, I think a lot of the things that go on in the world, the fear, the doubt, the ignorance, the anxiety that people experience, is always to kind of take you to an emotional state in which you lose yourself. And keeping yourself calm, keeping yourself centered in who you are is a powerful place to be. And I certainly feel like when I when I keep that in mind and keep myself calm and centered, uh, it is a much more powerful position to be in. There's a great opening to the book, The Art of Communicating, that it talks about like the idea of like the food that you feed yourself. It's not just the food; it's it's everything that is around you that you absorb, and it's everything that you influence. And if you're nourishing to all those things, if you're nourishing to the people around you, that that's kind of that as well. That kind of calm, nourishing self that you are. If you are that, if you remain that, the world is a better place.
I like when you said lose yourself, because sometimes it feels like when I felt I lost myself, I actually found my true self. And sometimes we have to lose the self or the personhood that we perceived that we were before in order to find that which was actually underneath it all the while. And yeah, so there's much value in losing, because you can lose something and find something on the other side. And also, have you really lost anything that, or can you lose anything that you didn't really have in the first place? Like you have to have something, I don't know, like you have to have something in your hand in order to be able to lose it. But sometimes we think we lost something, but then we discover we didn't really even have it in the first place. So
Yeah.
can we even lose it if we didn't have it in the first place? And that's like a huge relief as well.
Yeah, I've thought that sometimes my past, that was that really ever mine anyway? This thing that I was trying to hold on to. Yeah. And what you said earlier, Mike, about leaving this world alive, if we think of it as a thought exercise that we have ultimate control, ultimate choice on whether to keep this body forever, to be immortal in that body, would you want to anyway? Or would you want to perhaps leave it behind? Just like you take off your dirty clothes, pull something clean that you've washed in the laundry and put that on instead, right? Like I have a tattoo on my arm from when I was 17 years old. I got this as a gift with my two other friends. We were interested in vampires. We thought those stories were great, were very interesting, were cool. And we wore all black, and we watched vampire movies and listened to vampire music and goth and all this kind of thing. And we had our little club. And then I lost interest in that. And I didn't find that interesting or cool anymore. And I saw that as another kind of trap. And that kind of mentality, or that belief in that creature or being that creature, was a false example of power or freedom. And really, what was I interested in anyway? I was interested in like the freedom of that having the strength, all the strength I could ever want or need, the ability to amass great wealth, the ability to survive difficult times, difficult circumstances. Every human being has that already. They don't have to be a vampire or to be a part of an organization that that encourages or creates that that false option, that false choice, the corruption. You must be corrupt. You must participate in corruption if you want to have your freedom or have your beautiful life. It's a lie. And that's what I look at now when I watch these movies or many other types of things, including songs or videos or stories, is that I pick out the lies, or I point them out to my children. That that's a lie. It's not true.
Isn't that an important way of going forward? To look after our children, and the wisdom and the life lessons that we have learned, to pass them on. So whether they take them or how they take them, or if they learn or not, that's up to them. But it's certainly something that I really want to do as well. Not only with the children that I work with and for, but also with my own children. That it feels like that is part of my purpose as well of being here, of gathering the experiences and, some skills, and then, to share them with others. And then who is hungry will certainly feed and will eat from them.
I ran into something opposite this morning. My mother taught me how to think like a free person and everything, and I understood everything. But now she doesn't believe me. So it's flipped. I learned my lessons from her, watching her grow up. But now she's like, no, no, the news tell the truth. These ones, this person does. All the other ones before they didn't, but this particular person, that was the truth.
It does seem to play out really sometimes in a very ironic way. I perceive it as well, like with my grandma, and with the tiny children and with the elderly persons. It's like, wow, seeing it, from the perspective that I am right now. So, my parents are alive, and even my grandma is still alive, and then, I have children as well, and to see how things play out is like, wow, it's amazing. Just like you said, the things, that they taught you before, and right now, they're growing older, and it's like, oh, hold on, it comes all the way, it comes full circle around, and it seems, it's like I can see the playfulness of life in that, because sometimes I can see myself, years ago when I was a little child, and I see it in them right now again. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. And when I can see it like that, it kind of, it seems to encourage me, um, to see it as a game and to see it in a playful way. So it's like, don't get too involved. No, that's wrong. No, it's like, oh wow, I saw this before and it was the other way around. Or didn't you say 10 years ago, 20 years ago that was bad, and now hold on, now you're all like all for it. Okay, that's interesting. It's not, oh, you mustn't do it, but it's like, oh, that's super interesting. Can you see it too? And then, like if I can point them to it and they can see it too, it's like, oh, there's laughter and there's relief, and it's like, okay, good. It doesn't mean you have to change it, but it means you can laugh about it and you can see, it's a game. There's playfulness in it. And I feel that has importance as well, to don't lose your humor, and don't use the ability to laugh about yourself even as well.
I know we've been talking here for a while. Do we have any comments? Is the audience just totally transfixed with our conversation here, or we just don't have any audience? What's going on?
No comment so far here. Well, I, there seem to be other things going on in the world. Oh, Colleen is sending something,
We
clapping,
have some
a waving
audience.
hand. So there is an audience.
Is that surrender or like support or what?
It's a white flag.
We kept someone alive, not alive, awake.
And in her house, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. So
Oh, really? Wow. I wonder where that is.
all right. So we should close down this stand until Monday, and we figure out what's next.
Hold on. Shambhavi's there as well. Hi, Shambhavi. She said, I'm scared.
Hey, Shambhavi.
Shambhavi is scared to
No.
comment.
Don't do it.
Ah.
Don't be scared. Scared is what pulls all that negativity towards you. Push that away. Be happy. Stand up and be joyful. Shambhavi's already joyful.
All right. Well, with that said, if we have no comments, I guess we'll conclude this. I found this very interesting discussion. I wish I could contribute more to that. I certainly need to kind of polish up my storytelling, I'll tell you, because I don't feel like I told that story very good. But I
Well,
definitely loved Lee's story.
maybe you
I
can
thought that was
polish
very
it
valuable.
for maybe you can polish it for next week and come up with a topic for next week, and then we can discuss what you are feeling unfulfilled with next week.
Yeah. Okay, I will do that. In the meantime, thank you all for your time and your attention. We certainly appreciate that. One of the things we want to do with this show is really try and, bring people around in regard to helping themselves make better decisions and make better choices about the things that are going on in their lives and make their lives better, of course. We do have some resources. Obviously, all of us are contributing to other people's lives in different ways, but obviously, Agnieszka has her psychosomatic interest as well as the things that she's doing. Do you want to add anything as far as what you're doing these days, Agnieszka?
Not today, but I'll probably prepare something for another day. I've been thinking
Okay.
about it. But yes, you can book sessions with me if you so choose, and they're like body mind analysis and where you're at
And the
with the
fate,
world.
you got the face reading, you got the tarot card stuff that you're doing um,
On
as well.
Tuesdays sometimes.
How about you,
Knowing that
Dennis?
you do
What's going
face
on with you?
reading
Oh,
encourages
go
me
ahead.
to look at your face, Agnieszka, and you look great. Dennis, you look great too. Michael, you look healthier too. We all look good.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Yeah.
I am improving. There's no doubt about it. How about you, Dennis? What's going on with you? You've got a couple projects that are
Oh yeah,
popping up.
one is coming to fruition, and yeah, I shall share it once it's up in life, and that won't be long from now. And it certainly will help a few people to cope with the with Nero's room and with the madness that's going on. At least it has been helping me for a while, and yeah, it probably make you laugh too. It could make you cry a few
Awesome.
times, but mostly it will make you laugh. So I shall share it
And
soon.
Lee, you mentioned you've got a classroom now, and you're doing some teaching. Tell us a little bit about that.
My goal is to get 30 hours a week, which would be, gosh, so if there's like only 6 days in the week, that's, 5 hours a day. That's a lot, I think. Maybe I wanted that for the month. But I was thinking that 10 hours a week is easily doable. And then I wanted to set a higher goal so that I would work more towards exceeding that. And then, yeah. So yeah, I had communication with a friend of mine. And he created a logo and like a small introduction video. So I will load that today on the USB and then take it to that place and put it on the television and playing there. And maybe that will encourage some people to take notice. Because I noticed a lot of glances when I was standing there yesterday talking to all of you in the street. People were like, "What's on the TV there? Oh, this video there. Oh, there I am on the video." So that will help, and we'll see what comes of that. That's what I'm
Nice.
hoping.
Nice. And you've also got your new show that's progressing nicely. That I think you're doing a great job on.
It's so much fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversations that we're having, and my next guest will be Adam Finnegan, and he's going to
What's your show
discuss
called, Lee?
love
Does it
and
happen?
support sessions, which can be found on my Facebook and Float
And
profile,
and on the
flote.app/RUFONG, Rufong. That's
and
where I
also
post,
on the autonomy calendar.
and also on the autonomy calendar. I took photos of that with the screenshot when that happened, because that was the thing that made it real for me. I'm on the calendar now. Yeah. And yeah, so
Very
Adam's
good.
going to talk about his connection to a plant and how it communicates with him. Really interesting stuff, which I found so beautiful and so attractive, because that's something that I was scared of was missing in the world. This direct communication with other living creatures, also animals too. I
So
found that very beautiful.
That's Monday at 9 p.m. No, 9 p.m.
Eastern time.
Eastern. Yes,
Yes,
8 p.m.
thank you.
Central.
Yep, all are welcome. The link will be public and Zoom link there. People can get in on that conversation.
Nice
All
one.
right. Well, I'll briefly plug a couple things I'm working on these days. Agorapoco.com racingexcellence.com. I'm not exactly sure if we're live yet on that, but there's going to be a big event here in Acapulco from mid-February through all of March. We're going to have different things going on. Acapulco is going to be happening in March. It's going to be in person and online as well. And then there's some other things going on as well. Essentially, you're within a community of people that are trying to help other people, and so we've got a few different events coming up over the next few months. And the first one that's coming up is called the Greater Reset. If you go to thegreaterreset.org, you can find out a little bit more about that. But those are some of the things that I'm involved with, and certainly my ethical emergence course. I'm going to continue to do that. I think we've got pretty much everybody here is involved in one way, shape, or form, past member, present member, and probably future member. But ethical emergence is something that I enjoy doing because I enjoy seeing people improve, and I'm hoping to make that a bigger impact within the community of people that I'm involved with. With that said, thank you so much for your time again and your attention, and we hope to see you soon. If you want to check out more about us, you can check out our website, which is raisingexcellence.live, and find out a little bit more about us. We promise that we're going to improve that over sometime in the near future. I'm not exactly sure when, but that's definitely a way to find out more about us. With
Yes.
that said, I guess this is where we say goodbye.
But I had a very last thought, which is, is it about Rome? Is it about Rome, or is it about your life? And if it's about your life, then even if Rome plays a role in your life, how big or how little are you going to let that role be played by Rome? It's really up to us. It's about our life. So if we live in Rome and in Nero's Rome, that might be the case. But how big of a role do we let Rome play in our lives? And that's up to us. So with that being said, thank you very much, everybody, and hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Stay tuned for the teaser on Monday. Take care, everyone.
Yes. Thank you to our audience.